What's good, everybody? Welcome in to the Early Wedge, part of the Early Edge universe, every single week, right here, Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. If you're watching us live or if you're watching on demand, we value you as well. So this is the last stop before we get to the year's second major, obviously on CBS, the PGA Championship. This is the Byron Nelson. Unfortunately, on Monday, Jordan Spieth, who this is his home tournament, he had to pull out. He's got a wrist injury. He's saying it's day-to-day, week-to-week. Don't know if he'll be able to play next week and try to complete the career Grand Slam. Let's go ahead and take a look at the odds from our friends over at Caesar Sportsbook and Casino. And it took us 10 years to set an all-time low record as far as odds at the Mexico Open with Jon Rahm. It's taken us now 2 weeks to break that record. Scotty Scheffler, plus 330. First pick of the day. Do not bet Scotty Scheffler to win. That's your first pick of the day right here, right now. If I see any winning tickets from Scotty Scheffler, I'm calling you the worst golf bettor in the history of time. That's what I'm doing. Let's bring in the stars of the show. You know him. You love him. TPC Craig Ranch, McKinney, Texas. Right back at it. KH Lee, gentlemen, a chance to go back to back to back. Only a few legends have ever done it at this tournament. Let's introduce my stars. First and foremost, he is the counselor of cash. And I got to tell you, that number is still ringing in my head. 75-1. See you, Nejad. Good afternoon.
Coach, that was then. This is now. Let's find another long shot. Really excited for this tournament.
All right, let's get into it. Also, this man is traveling all over the place. He is everything golf at CBS Sports. Mr. Patrick McDonald, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. I feel like the only player or only guy hotter than KH Lee at this golf course might be Sia with his golf picks. So hopefully we can keep up with them.
It is unbelievable. First-round leaders, winners. We've got them top to bottom. And last week, you had to watch all the way to the end of the show. I tell you all the time, don't just wait for those recap screens that are every single show, every segment. They're right here. All right, now let's get into it because we do everything. If you're brand new to the Early Wedge, we do fantasy. We do first-round leaders. We do head-to-heads. We do winners. We do finishing positions. So before we do any of that, we got to get into storylines. And let's start with you, Patrick McDonald, because there's not a lot of stars this week because of the major next week. But a Texan that is playing is one Scotty Scheffler at plus, 330 as we just saw. What do you make of Scheffler being the star of stars this week?
And you got to remember, this is Scotty Scheffler coming off a pretty prolonged break. He skipped last week's Wells Fargo Championship, and I kind of like the way he constructed his playing calendar. These Texas events mean a lot to these guys. Obviously, Jordan Spieth won't be able to play, but Scheffler is going to be playing this week as the world number 2. And honestly, over the last 3 months, it's not Jon Rahm who leads the world in total strokes gained. It's Scotty Scheffler. He's the only player above that 3 strokes gained per round mark. And this is a tournament that has been pretty kind to him, but coming off that long break on a course that is very susceptible to birdies. Will that putter come around and cooperate? Because he's going to need it to keep up with the likes of KH Lee and some of the premier birdie makers on the PGA Tour.
So with that being said, there's a lot of what we call Nejad mid-tier players. Who could be a guy that could step up this week and challenge Scotty Scheffler? Talk to me.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're going to talk about this entire show because, Coach, you let off. It's really troubling to bet on a guy in a full field basically at plus 350. So the question becomes, well, who is going to be in the chase pack on Sunday? And certainly there's some names that I think are going to be popular like Tyrrell Hatton and Tom Kim. But then there's some names in that, quote, middle tier, some of these like second or third tier golfers that really can make a name for themselves. Joseph Bramlett is a guy I'm thinking of in that context. Maybe Christian Bezuidenhout. There's a lot of guys sort of in that 50 to 70 to 1 range that I think are viable in this tournament, especially if Scotty Scheffler slips up with the putter a little bit. So these are the tournaments I'm really excited for because if the captain gets struck down, and that being Scotty Scheffler, then it's wide open for some of these long shots.
You're damn right. You're damn right. Rebecca is here, and she says, afternoon, everyone, ready to put on my blindfold and follow Sia wherever he takes us. Well, guess where he's going to take us right now? Our first segment of the show. We're talking fantasy. We're talking a little DFS. I need 3 guys that I am following, and I need 1 guy that I am fading. Sia Nejad, start us off.
Yeah, let's start out with a name I just mentioned, Christian Bezuidenhout. It's not an easy name to pronounce, so maybe I'll just stick with CBez for the rest of the show. But at 8,000, I think there's some value there. So what I'm looking for on this track here at TPC Craig Ranch, I'm looking for good putters, of course. because that is going to go a long way here. But it's really the approach game. It's a second shot golf course. And I look at weighted approach in particular. So one thing that Nejad has going for him is the weighted approach numbers. He can be a very good putter, but he also has good course history here, and his recent history is pretty good too. This is not a household name. It's not a name I ever really bring up, but I think this is the right spot to play him. 8,000 is a very reasonable price. Then I'm going down the board a little bit, Patrick McDonald style, Nate Lashley at 7,200. Speaking of guys who have good history here, but really good recent history. Honestly, for a $7,200 player, kind of shockingly good recent history, I think Nate Lashley is a really good course fit. He's been good here before, and he's playing really well. That checks all the boxes. So give me Nate Lashley at 7,200, and then Carson Young, going right back to him. He missed the cut on the number last week, but he played really well. And when you consider he was sort of poor off the tee and sort of poor around the green last week, but where was he good? He was good on approach, and he was good with the putter. That's what I'm looking for here. And for the record, prior to the miscut on the number last week, he was doing really, really well. So I think we are grabbing some value at 6,700 for Carson Young. And then finally, I'm going to fade Hideki Matsuyama. I'm just not sure where he is coming off the neck injury. Does he have upside? Of course. But this is one of those situations where, listen, if ownership is going to be super low, then go ahead and play Hideki. But if it's not going to be super low, I'm just not interested in playing him. Maybe this is a tune-up scenario for the PGA Championship. Maybe he's not 100% healthy. I don't want to deal with those maybes, so he's a fade for me.
Well, to back up this fade, he was supposed to play last week at the Wells Fargo. He pulled out because he needed to get work done on his neck. So he's playing this week, but I don't know how healthy the neck is if he's pulling out of a $20 million purse event prior to this one. That's all I'm saying. All right. Now, Max, we preach bankroll management all the time. And believe me, I struggle with it. But Max says, see ya. I need your Rangers pick to hit so I can play these picks. If that needs to hit, so you can play these picks on Thursday, Max, we got to talk about the bankroll management. Go ahead, see.
I was just going to say, where were you the last 20 picks? Because maybe 25, because I think I'm 17 for my last 23. I'll have to go back and verify that. But listen, don't make the sample size so short that it's one for all, and you just got to kind of consider the long-term view here. So just keep that in mind, Max. Maybe you're new, so maybe that would explain that.
Exactly. If you do this every single day, keep the same bet size. And then if you do golf picks like these, spread them out a little bit or chop up a unit, but don't go crazy. Golf is very, very, very hard to hit. It just is. All right. See ya. Thank you very much. Stand by. All right, Patrick McDonald, you're also a DFS savage. Talk to me.
See ya. 17 of 23 must be a little cold streak for you. Don't worry about it. We'll get you back on the schneid. But I like Adam Schenk, 7,300. And look, if you're like myself, a little bit of a cold streak in the golf front, you got to save money somewhere. So we're saving at DFS. We're looking for diamonds in the rough. And Schenk at 7,300. He's gained off the tee in 5 straight events. He putts these greens in particular pretty well. Over his 8 rounds, he's gained in all of them. So I love him with that upside. We've seen him flash plenty of times. You remember the Valspar Championship, easily could have won that tournament. And then Ben Griffin, 7,500. He's a player who's hit a rough patch. He had a really nice start to his year. But the driver is showing signs of life, which I like. He's not the longest hitter in the world. In this course, you probably want to pound it out there pretty well. But the iron play looks good, and he has a stellar short game. So if he just gets in that 20 to 25-foot range, gives himself enough birdie chances, I think he has the upside to contend. We've seen him play great in some really strong fields. The Players' Championship, he was right there till the end. And Aaron Rai, 7,500. I just can't really seem to quit this guy. Made the cut last year. He putted well. That's really been his main bugaboo. The iron play is kind of teetering on a breakout performance, and the ball striking overall looks fantastic. And then I'm going to fade Adam Scott at 9,200. I think there's going to be a bit of recency bias involved for a lot of people out there. T5 last week, but outside of that, hasn't had a top 20 finish this year yet. The iron play has been pretty sporadic. He's gotten by with pretty massive effort from the putter. So in a birdie fest, I think his iron play will just kind of let him down a bit too many times. So because of that, I'm going to fade him.
Damn, but I hate when you fade somebody that I may or may not later in the show be very heavy on. I'm just saying, maybe. All right, a lot of people are helping our man Max over there in the chat because that's exactly what you do. Now, before we get to the rest of the show, as you know, we got to pay those pesky little bills. Also, we have a very, very big golf tournament coming up next week. It's called this.
One weekend in May, Only the best are welcome. An invitation reserved for legendary players and future stars, challenging each other at one of the most extraordinary courses in the nation. A major moment awaits. The PGA Championship on CBS.
You know who's done her homework? You know who's already read the golf articles at SportsLine because she's a member? Rebecca. She says, Scott is one of N Squared's boys. Eyeballs. How does that make you feel, Patrick?
Not great. M Squared is definitely smarter than me. So we're going up against it. It's okay. The underdog wins every once in a while.
That's true. That's true. That's why we do the dog of the day on the morning show all the time. And if you're a SportsLine member, let's do it right now. Use the promo code early. I'll give you everything for free for 30 days. You can have M Squared articles. You can have all the picks from Patrick McDonald. Also the counselor. You can try all of it. After that, you're playing with house money. So let's go. Let's go. So what's up next? I think I saw someone in the chat talk about how good my guys are predicting an 18-hole leader, or you can call it a first-round leader. Whatever you prefer, we'll meet you at the pay window. See, Nejad, you've also been in this market an absolute savage. Where are we going this week?
Well, we'll start with Tyrrell Hatton, who at 28-1, I think that's pretty good value from a first-round leader standpoint. He's been really good. I mean, there's really no criticism for Hatton at this point. In terms of the metrics, he's been really good with the ball striking and really good with the putter. I mean, he really sizes up as, other than the fact that he hasn't played here before, I don't believe he has at least, I think he sizes up as a really good candidate because of the number at 28-1. So give me Tyrrell Hatton there. Tom Kim. Good history here. And honestly, it's just the putter that's holding him back. But because I've seen him get hot with the putter before, it hasn't been recently, but because I've seen him get hot with the putter and because his ball striking is basically back, I think he's a really good candidate, maybe to win this tournament, spoiler alert, but also to maybe be a first round leader. And then I've said Seabez's name one too many times, and you'll hear it again later in this show, but it's 65-1. He has the makeup, in my opinion, because of the course history, the recent history, and of course his ability on the weighted approach metrics and the putter. I really like his number at 65-1. And then finally, Patton Kizzire. This is certainly a long shot play, not as long as the long shot I have in the long shot portion of this show. Kizzire is one of those guys when the scoring is easy, he can all of a sudden jet out to 3, 4, 5 birdies in a row. So at 90-1, he's not a guy I normally play. I think he's interesting in DFS, by the way. But I think with a course where you can score, Kizzire is usually like, especially if you don't need to be super accurate off the tee. I think Kizzire is absolutely in play to be first round leader at 90-1. He's not a 4-round guy, but he's definitely a 1-round guy.
You're damn right. It's kind of like betting on the horse to be in the lead at the quarter mile, not the whole race. The horse I bet on the Kentucky Derby, he was out front until literally just stopped running. I was like, you can't stop running in a race, but that's what my horse did on Saturday. All right, Patrick, you've got one horse, and he's also, just like Tom Kim, who's called Dallas home the last 12 months. So is Siwoo Kim. Talk to me.
Yeah, I love Siwoo Kim whenever we get around Texas. He had a great performance there at the match play, played well at the Texas Open as well. So I'm hoping the good vibes with the Lone Star State, him in a cowboy hat, eating some barbecue, cowboy boots, all that good stuff. At 50-1, he'll get off to a fast start. And Siwoo Kim's one of those players where in a single round, he could gain nearly 4 strokes on approach easily. It really just comes down to the putter for him. He's been switching back and forth between the broomstick and conventional. He has yet to settle, but despite that, he has actually put together some decent putting performances. So over the last 3 months, he's 12th in this field in total strokes gained, 9th off the tee, 14th tee to green. One of the most accurate drivers of the golf ball as well. So really just hoping on a decent putting day from Siwoo Kim, because I think his tee to green acumen could carry him to the first round lead at 50-1.
So I'm trying to figure out why we've got a 2-time defending champion who can shoot low at TPC courses, but yet neither one of you decide to go with KH Lee. Any reason why?
For me, I think just the history is really baked into the price and the value sucked out of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a fine play, Coach. I have him in a different market in this tournament. But I mean, if you want to play KH Lee, since Patrick only has one, if you want to add one to Patrick's, I mean, I'm just not literally it's one of Patrick's, but I'm just saying KH Lee is certainly viable. Obviously super comfortable here.
All right, Sia, you have explained this before, but we have so many new people that come every single week. So Taylor's question is this: is there a reason why you guys like the early tee times for first round leaders? Please answer.
Yeah, there's really two main reasons for that. One is because typically the wind doesn't pick up, and we will have some Texas wind, usually wherever you are, whether it's Texas or otherwise. The wind doesn't start picking up until later in the afternoon, or I should say later in the morning. So when you get guys going out at 7, 8, 9 in the morning, they're usually, not always, but usually less affected by the wind. The other thing is the course gets really baked out because of the sun. So not only do you have divots and things like that, and the greens aren't necessarily as smooth because people are walking all over them, but you have the issue of, just unpredictability of the course being baked out. It's a different course at 9 a.m. than it is at 3 o'clock p.m. because of how the sun affects the course. So typically you're going to get those softer conditions in the morning, more predictability. And that's why first round leader, you want to be in the morning, I would say 85 to 90% of the time.
I would agree completely. I would say this will be my 5th event that I've called this year. And every single one, our leaders after day one, I would say 80 to 90% stuck there until the afternoon wave on Friday. It just is the way it happens, and it's the way it goes, and the greens are perfect at 9 o'clock in the morning. Mm-hmm. All right, Sia, thank you very much. Now, I tell you all the time, if you're going to make money doing golf betting, you can do all the fun stuff. You can do all the extreme, and you can bet the winners and all that. Very hard to hit. This is your bread and butter. This is where it all matters, the head-to-head matchups. All you got to do is beat one guy. One guy. Patrick McDonald, where are you going this week?
I'm going back to the Siwoo Kim well. We got him at
minus. Deep well this week. It's deep.
I know it is very. I mean, I could drown in it for all I know this week if it doesn't bode well for me. But I got him. Minus 105 over Seamus Power over there at BetMGM. And like I said, Siwoo Kim is 12th in this field in total strokes gained over the last 3 months. The tee to green acumen looks great. We just need a decent week from the putter. If it turns out to be a great week, he'll surely contend. And Seamus Power, meanwhile, is 38th in this field in total strokes gained, outside the top 80 around the green and off the tee. That's rather concerning for me. So I think it's Siwoo and potentially a route. And then Jaeger minus 110 over Montgomery. That's on DraftKings. I've been fading Taylor Montgomery for the past month. It's been quite nice. We, missed the cut at plus 140 last week. I think he made 2 double bogeys in his first 5 holes and, just unstart him from the app. It was similar to that showdown me and Sia won over Coach there at the Texas Open. But I like Steven Jaeger a ton this week. 4th in approach, 10th around the green. Really can't do no wrong. He finished inside the top 40 at this event last year, despite losing nearly 4 strokes on the greens. If he putts well, I think like Siwoo Kim, he could contend. While Montgomery, his ball striking is atrocious. It's like one of us out there. So I don't have enough faith in Taylor Montgomery making 20, 25 footers over Steven Jaeger, who's been a beast from tee to green.
He really has been. I didn't hear a whole lot of that second take because all I hear was wah, 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 after you've taken this direct hit at me. Hey, a lot of people lose a showdown on Thursday at 1 o'clock. It happens all the time.
It's normal, I swear.
It happens to everybody. God, that still burns me so much that I paid on Thursday at 1 o'clock. By the way, it's at least a 2-day bet, and I paid Thursday at 1 o'clock. All right, I'm going to go next because me and C have 2 of the same, so I'm going to go very short and let him explain. KH Lee over Matt Kuchar. KH Lee, he can win 3 years in a row. The only names that have ever done that at this event all time, let me tell you, Sam Snead, pretty good. Jack Nicklaus, not bad. Tom Watson, I'd say he's pretty good too. Those are the only 3. KH Lee has a chance to do that this week. And he says, I know my name doesn't belong with them, but it'd be nice. Yes, it would. But all I need him to do is beat Matt Kuchar. Tom Kim over Jason Day. I don't know if you saw this. I love Jason Day, but he started doing those interviews about his vertigo again. It's starting to rear its ugly head, and it stinks. It stinks for him. But sometimes it affects his play big time. Bram over Riley, we talked about that, and I love Adam Scott. We're both fading Seamus Power, me and Patrick this week, because Adam Scott's just playing really well, not just last week. He's been playing well all season. See it? Bring us home on this one.
I will say with respect to Seamus Power, I think he's an interesting DFS play because he's not going to get a lot of attention. So I just want to throw that out there because I do think he probably will crash and burn, but I do think he has some upside. So just kind of put that in the back of your mind. And by the way, Coach, before I get to my head-to-heads, you would have won the showdown that we tried to bait you into last week, Patrick and I. I don't know if you recall that, but I believe it was Sam Burns over Tom Kim, and you were in Tom Kim's corner which, we are this week. But I'm just letting you know, sometimes you should probably take the showdown. With that said, I got to say, I lost 2 out, like full disclosure, hit the 75-1 shot, but I did lose 2 out of my 3 head-to-head matchups. So I'm trying to rebound in this department as well, not resting on Wyndham Clark last week. Seabez over Maverick McNeely. This one's over on FanDuel, by the way. There was a comment, by the way, in the chat, shop your lines, particularly with the first round leaders and outrights, because they are different, especially between DraftKings and FanDuel. Anyway, Seabez over Maverick McNeely is an easy one for me. That doesn't mean it's definitely going to cash, but Maverick McNeely hasn't been good in quite some time. We've seen some glimmers of hope with respect to his approach game, but overall, it's been consistently bad. And Seabez, again, lines up really well for this tournament for all the reasons we've already set out. Bramlett over Davis Riley. Davis Riley could absolutely explode and win this tournament, but the higher probability is that he explodes the other way, because that's what's normally been happening to him. Joseph Bramlett, on the other hand, well, he's been pretty consistent. The weighted approach, the weighted tee to green, the finishing positions, everything's been pretty good for Joseph Bramlett. And he's really trending upward. I think this is one of those tournaments where we could find him kind of entering a different stratosphere. Steven Yeager over Taylor Montgomery. Patrick said it. It hasn't just been a month. We've actually been fading him since the outset of this show, the Early Wedge. We have been fading Taylor Montgomery. And I can say, without even having to go back and look, this show has made more fading Taylor Montgomery than any other player. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful to him, but I love this play from Patrick, and I'm going to mimic it as well. Really like how Steven Yeager is trending. This shouldn't be minus 110, frankly. I mean, listen, Taylor can get hot with the putter, but his approach is not good. This should be minus 135 at a minimum. And then finally, KH Lee over Matt Kuchar. Kuchar is getting some respect in the market. I will say that, in the head-to-head market. But I love how KH Lee is playing, and I love his course history. Kuchar has good course history here, but his recent form, while it looks good from a finishing position standpoint, it's not really good from a ball striking standpoint. In fact, last week, he gained 11 strokes with the short game, puttering around the green, and he lost strokes ball striking. And we've seen that trend with him. So even though he's getting respected in the market, I really like KH Lee here, minus 120.
Zach wants to know, Sia, what about Adam Hadwin over Maverick McNeely, minus 120 at his book?
I like it. Hadwin's game has been a little checkered, not quite as bad as Maverick McNeely. It's for me, it's a stay away. But if you're betting it, Adam Hadwin is the right side of that, in my opinion.
100%. Maverick McNeely doesn't know right now if he's going left or right. And I like him as a player. By the way, Patrick, somebody in the chat says, man, Patrick's house looks really, really nice. I think it looks nice too.
I mean, that's what happens when you just blindly tail Sia's golf picks,
That house is called Wyndham Clark.
We're buying Airbnbs. We're saying, Mom, Dad, can I come for the weekend?
Yeah, call Sia BlackRock. He's buying up all the properties.
All right, so those are your head-to-head matchups, and most of them are at DraftKings or Caesars. Shop around. Remember, tournament matchups, not always the same. That's why you got to listen live, watch live, listen to the information, and use it for your book. That's why we give all of this to you. Okay, now, finishing positions. And we've been pretty good in this market as well. But again, take your unit size down just a little bit, because on Sunday, we saw it last week, didn't we? Several players right in the mix all the way till Sunday, and then they shoot a 76, and all of a sudden it's a T35 or a T55. Be very, very careful. Be very, very careful. Now, Patrick doesn't like to wade in these waters, so he will stand down for just a moment. See you, Nejad. Where are you and I going this week? Start us off.
Yeah, by the way, I completely agree with the sentiment. Maybe you take the unit size down a little bit here, like relative to the head-to-head market. For me, the head-to-head market, where I'm probably going to go a full unit there. But in the top 20, even top 40 market, it's usually in that sort of half a unit range. So, decide what you want to do for yourself, but these are not full unit plays for me. I'm just letting everybody know that. KH Lee, and by the way, part of the reason is because they're all at plus numbers for the most part for me. KH Lee at plus 115. Coach talked about it, and I see he has it here as a top 20. I don't want to bet him to win again, obviously, but like KH Lee at plus 115 to top 20, given his history and his recent history, that makes a lot of sense. Seabez again at plus 240. I think that's a great number. I really think he's going to flash in this tournament. And then I mentioned Joseph Bramlett, plus 260. This one's the more tenuous of the three. That's why it's the longer odds. But again, with Bramlett, I'm trying to be ahead of the curve here. I'm kind of thinking Bramlett is a different player than everybody thinks he is. And what I mean by that is I think he's better than everybody thinks he is. And I think he's about to prove it. So top 20 is very realistic. I do like the number of plus 260.
All right. Fayraz or Fayaz, I think I mispronounced names. God bless this show. See, I love reading things like that because it's the reason we work so hard for you, because we love doing this so much, but we want you to love it too. So thank you for that message. Now, I got 3 big plays. KH Lee, we talked a lot about him. Adam Scott, he's been playing well. And with this field, he's certainly elite in this field. Then Michael Kim, you say, Coach, Michael Kim. Yes, Michael Kim, the last 2 weeks, Mexico. And last week in that big boy field, who was there on Sunday? Who got a lot of TV time? Michael Kim. Plus 225 for a top 20. Think about this. Scotty Scheffler is plus 330 to win. I'm going to give you a plus 225. Sia gave you a plus 260 for a top 20. I'd rather play that than have to win at plus 330. I think everybody would. Do not bet Scotty Scheffler. Don't do it. All right. Now, we've arrived at that time of the show where, whether it's here or in our long shot section, we don't just guess. We don't just throw names out there. That's why we hit every 3 or 4 weeks. So Patrick McDonald, I'm looking at my notes, and I could have guessed without even looking at least one of the names that you were going to pick, maybe both. Talk to me.
Yeah, I'm keeping it nice and tight this week, Coach. As I normally do, but I missed. I was kind of waiting on attacking the top of the board, and then Jordan Spieth withdrew. Some of the value was sucked out of it. So I decided just a couple mid-range. I had JJ Spawn in here too. I feel like every other person's withdrawing from this field. It seems like he was one of them as well. But just 2 this week. Siwoo Kim 40-1. I'm not sure I really need to talk more about him. 12th in total strokes gained. He's a proven winner. He won the Sony Open earlier this year. Loves the state of Texas. Plays some of his best golf here and is very comfortable on this golf course. And then Steven Yeager, 6 times a winner on the Korn Ferry Tour. He's been close. He's played well in the state of Texas as well. So at 50-1, the way he's trending, tee to green, approach play, it really will come down to the putter. I like that he fired a pair of 65s in this tournament last year. And then he also lost nearly 4 strokes on the greens. So he flashed the upside a couple times, a couple rounds that didn't go his way. So if he can just piece together 4 of those, I like him to be there at the end at 50-1.
Man, I like that plus 4,000. I like that plus 5,000. Mine aren't nearly that high, but I like him still. KH Lee, I believe in history, and I believe in things can happen. And I call him TPC KH Lee. That's what I call him. Because whenever he shows up at TPC course, he's dominant. It's unbelievable, but it has to be a TPC course, which this week it is, plus 2,200. Then Adam Scott, you put him in the mix. Last week he was in the mix all the way on Sunday. You put him in the mix with these guys, he's going to be the guy people look at. So I like him at plus 3,000. See you. Talk to me.
So I couldn't help but see that EC is in the chat, and he says, Coach, I have Tom Kim and KH Lee. Sorry, C and Coach, for jinxing your picks. Awesome show once again. Coach, I'm sorry.
This show was just going. It was flowing. We had good picks. We had good analysis. We had good back and forth. And then this.
Yeah.
Thank you, EC, for ruining the flow.
This is unfortunate. I'll go ahead, and it's a formality.
Try.
Yeah, I'm gonna try. Tom Kim at plus 1,700. Again, I think the game is rebounding for Tom Kim from what we saw 4 or 5 months ago. The ball striking is great. I think he'll be dialed in. And honestly, I think he's going to create a lot of opportunities for himself. And on a scoring course, that's really what you're looking for. Guys that can, on approach, that can get it to 8 feet, 10 feet, 12 feet. Granted, the putter hasn't been there. But again, we've seen it with Tom Kim. You take Jordan Spieth out of this rotation, if you will. And he's really, in terms of elite players, he's only having to contend with a handful of them. So I think plus 1,700 is a fair number. Seamus Power, this one's a bit of a long shot for me, even though it's only 40-1. I'm not a Seamus Power guy, but I have noticed that the recent form is trending pretty well. And a year ago, Seamus Power was on the right trajectory. He's kind of fallen off a little bit. He does have good history here. So again, with limited talent, I think Seamus Power makes some sense at 40-1. Seabez again at plus 6,500. It is a long shot, don't get me wrong, but I think it's worth a few bucks because I again think he's a good course fit, and he's shown us that he's comfortable on this very course at TPC Craig Ranch. And then finally, Joseph Bramlett at 70-1, truly a long shot. I'm obviously trying to find something in the Wyndham Clark range. Again, I think Bramlett is on the right trajectory, and it wouldn't shock me, just like Wyndham Clark last week, it wouldn't shock me if he is at least in the conversation Sunday afternoon.
I love all those. They all make a lot of sense. Jason in the chat says, yeah, but Coach, EC parlayed both of those picks to win. Think about that for a second. Then you'll laugh. And if you're wondering why that's not possible, you can't have two winners. That's why it's so funny. I hate explaining a joke, but that one was really, really good. That one was really, really good. EC says different shows, same ruining of the flow. There's only one ruining of the flow. There's only one. It's not about a different show. This is part of the Early Edge universe. EC, don't you understand that? Why does he make me so angry? Yes, Patrick, go. Please go.
I saw someone in the chat wondering about Scotty Scheffler exposure. I know, Coach, you don't condone betting on him outright, but he is 2-1 to be the top American. And if you think about the top of this odds board, Terrell Hatton, Jason Day, Tom Kim, none of those guys are American. So you're getting 2-1 when the second favorite in that market is Matt Kuchar, around 17-1 on FanDuel, I believe. I think if you want Scheffler exposure, 2-1 to be a top American, it might be your best avenue.
And where can we find that at?
That's at FanDuel.
FanDuel. That is unbelievable advice. 2-1 instead of 3 1/3 to 1. Think about the difference. 2-1, 3 1/3 to 1. There's not that much difference. Patrick McDonald always educating and entertaining. Always. Unlike EC, who's just irritating. See how I did the word there? All right. Yes, see it, Jay.
Yeah, Joe in the chat, who's I'm a big fan of Joe. He's the goods dude, I believe, on Twitter. He says Bez has moved 45-1 and 50-1. That's actually not the case. He's 55-1 on DraftKings currently and 65-1 currently on FanDuel. And by the way, just to go back to my matchups, the first matchup was FanDuel. The next three were DraftKings, just so everybody knows.
One other thing, and then I'll move on. Okay. Who did we talk about that was out last week with a neck injury? We don't really know where his game is. Didn't we talk about that person? Hideki?
Mr. Matsuyama. Yeah.
So guess what little parlay that EC's playing in the chat? Siwoo, KH, and Hideki. Huh. Put those three together, plus 1,200. He's going to miss the cut, EC. So if you guys want to play that, go right ahead. The number looks good. The bets are horrible. Well, one of the bets are horrible. Yes.
Could I just say one other thing? Because it just occurred to me that, I'm on Tom Kim. Patrick is a big fan of Siwoo Kim. And Coach, you're a big fan of Michael Kim. If you're not doing something like maybe it's DFS, if 3 of your 6 guys, at least in one lineup, are, and by the way, SH Kim is in this thing too, and he could do very well.
I don't hate
the 4 Kims in your lineup and just see what happens. Make it a lower dollar lineup, strokes gain narrative. This is what it's all about. Those are, by the way, those are 4 really good players. Put them all in a lineup.
Just for fun.
Just for fun.
Because guess what? I know there's a lot of old school guys out there that don't want to tell you this. You're allowed to have fun picks too. They're allowed. You're allowed.
That's a thing.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's crazy talk. Crazy talk. All right. Now EC's trying to get on your good side. C is a genius. Stop it, EC. It's too late. It's too late. Now, last week, it was this particular section where we put Wyndham Clark 75-1. It could be anything. And this is where we put it. So see it out of respect for Wyndham Clark last week. Who are we putting in here this week?
Yeah, I threw in a couple outrights here at 90-1. Aaron Rai is one of them, and Patrick McDonald spoke to him. Like, listen, if he's getting dialed in with his irons, then this is a really good play because that's exactly what you need to do on this course. I think 90-1 in this field, given, I've seen pops with Aaron Rai where it's not just one round. I mean, granted, some of that was a while ago, but I think 90-1 is a very fair number on Aaron Rai in this field. So I like that one. And then Nate Lashley, again, looking at his strokes gain metrics, they're all really good. His recent form is good, and his history here is good. I love him in DFS. I think other people will kind of love him too, which is why his ownership will probably creep up to like 8-9% in that low 7K range. But with all that said, I think 90-1 is a pretty fair number. I have him as a first-round leader as well. That's the more likely scenario. But I think Nate Lashley could potentially contend here. And by the way, he's my long shot first-round leader. I gave you 4 earlier. I'm giving you a 5th one here. It's Nate Lashley at 100-1.
Nate Lashley recently became one of my heroes for something he said. And if you want to go Google it, go Google it. I'm not going to say exactly what it is because I don't want to get in trouble. But in this business, there are things that frustrate many of us. and he actually spoke out on one of them. So, Nate, good on you. Let him fight that out. But I like him this week. And he was good right to the end last week at the Wells Fargo. See His game is on point. Patrick, you've got also a first-round leader here who just had a baby. Congratulations to the Shanks. But also you have 2 players to miss the cut. Tell me more.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a glass half empty type of guy. And after Taylor Montgomery missed the cut last week, I mean, how can you not? How can you not be a bit of a pessimist on some of these guys? And I think we attacked Cameron Champ last couple of weeks, and his form outside of Mexico has been really bad. He's missed 7 out of 9 cuts this year. The iron play has been dreadful. I know he has a decent history here. The wide open fairways of TPC Craig Ranch should be conducive for his game, but you're giving me plus money on Cameron Champ to miss the cut. He's probably the most volatile player on the PGA Tour. He could either top 10 or he's going to miss the cut. So give me him at plus money. And then I'm picking on Aaron Wise. I don't feel great about it. He withdrew from the Masters, citing mental health issues, and this is his first tournament back. Before that, he was absolutely dreadful. His iron play was really, really down in the depths. So at plus 175 in his first start back since the match play, I'm expecting a little bit of rust. I don't expect him to be fully 100%. Potentially that ball striking is still poor. And if that's the case, I think he could be in for an early week at plus 175. I love that price. And then Adam Schenk, 80-1 to be the first round leader. He does have a morning tee time. Siwoo Kim's in the afternoon. So I wanted someone in the morning. He's a guy who's been prone to hot starts. You think about Bermuda in the fall, Valspar Championship as well. He led at Torrey Pines last year also. So Adam Schenk's a guy, if the putter gets rolling, which he has proven multiple times, I like him to be the first round leader.
All right. Very, very good. I tell you what, he played, I don't know, what was it, Patrick, 10, 11 weeks in a row leading up to the baby. Then they had the baby. We interacted on PGA Tour Live, and the baby and the family are doing great. But now it's time for him to get back out on tour. It's time for him to play. It's time to get those FedEx Cup points. Gentlemen, another phenomenal show. And I encourage you to follow us live every single day this week. I'll be calling the Byron Nelson. So Sia will be hosting the Early Edge, as he always does when I am in, I don't even know what the word is, when I'm busy. When I'm busy, my man right there always has my back. So, gentlemen, you know we like to end every single show saying what's the number one most important thing you're looking forward to this week, either using it for this tournament or using it in the future. So, Patrick McDonald, talk to me.
We talked about Hideki Matsuyama a lot this week, not in a great light, and this is a tournament where he finished T3 last year after a scorching final round, nearly caught the field there early on Sunday. But for me, it's, what Hideki do we get this week? Do we get the potentially injured one, or do we get the one who shows some form? Because his PGA Championship history, especially since it's moved to May from August, is pretty stellar. He's a proven major champion, as we saw at the 2021 Masters. So if Hideki Matsuyama does show some life, I think he's potentially live next week for the PGA Championship. So even though we didn't speak about him in the highest regard, don't be afraid to keep an eye on him. Maybe star him on your PGA Tour app because he does have that major championship caliber.
Yeah, and Zach wanted to know if we would play Matsuyama to miss the cut. Everything that Patrick just said is why we wouldn't play him to miss the cut. His game is just too good if he gets back on it. Patrick, thank you very much. See ya. What are you looking forward to?
Well, Patrick just said the word live, and I think this might be a good tournament to live bet if Scotty Scheffler slips. And I'm not saying the live bet would be on Scotty Scheffler, but because this is a course where people are probably going to go low every single day, you can have a situation where if Scotty slips, let's say Thursday, Friday, or he's not super in the mix, a live bet is warranted on Scotty Scheffler perhaps. But some of these other guys who could maybe have a 6-under day or a 7-under day, it's all in play. So monitor, what happens with Scotty, specifically the guys at the top. If they stumble a little bit, there might be one of these middle tier guys that are, 4 or 5 strokes back and they're 80-1 or 90-1. Also, first round leaders this Thursday. I gave you 5, I gave you 4, and then I gave you the long shot. One thing I failed to say, it's my birthday on Thursday. How does this not hit? I don't know.
What? And I'm making you, well, you always work on Thursday, but you're hosting on Thursday. So do I need to find somebody? I don't want to make you work on your birthday.
That's the gift you gave me for my birthday, Coach. Give me a break. I love it. Let's go.
Apologies. Okay. Then we full speed freaking ahead. Even on birthdays. I tell you all the time, we haven't missed a day. since December 2020. We're not about to start now. And we have sports-specific shows. If you're brand new, this is where you want to be. This is where you need to be. So with all that being said, there's only one thing left to do. And for those of you watching live, do not forget Early Edge and 5 coming up in 20 minutes. EC should have been preparing for that. Instead, he's in here annoying me. But there is only one thing left to do, and I believe you all know what that is. You've got your marching orders. Let's take all of these Byron Nelson tickets straight to the pay window. For my attacker at Lebo, Patrick McDonald, the counselor, the snake always behind the scenes on the ones and the twos. I am the coach, just trying to keep this train on said track. We love doing this more than anything. I can promise you that because of how positive you are, because you guys always show up, and we appreciate that. At the Early Wedge. Good luck.